Well, during the break, the most wonderful news in the history of the Christian fascist movement in this country occurred. Hunter Biden reaches a deal to plead guilty in the tax case against him and the gun case. Ta-da! Oh, Lord have mercy. This makes the right-wing Christian terrorists in this country just almost orgasmic, because now they have something to divert attention away from the real criminal, and that would be, of course, the orange vomit. So, here's the deal. I know you've heard it all day. I know you're going to hear it all night. I know this is going to go on endlessly. The right wing talking about Hunter Biden, but what the hell? Let me just point out that poor old Hunter reached a tentative agreement. Federal prosecutor to plead guilty to 2 minor tax crimes, keyword being minor, and admit to the facts of a gun charge. Under terms, his plea arrangement that will likely keep him out of jail. That's according to court papers filed today. Oh no, he is a vicious criminal. He should go to jail for the rest of his life, and so should his dad, and so should anybody connected to the Biden family. They all belong in jail, I tell you. Oh, Jesus God. Now, any proposed deal, of course, the deal has not been made yet, but any proposed deal would have to be approved by a federal judge. And both the prosecutors in this situation with Hunter and the defense counsel have requested a court hearing at which Hunter Biden can enter his plea. Lock him up. Put him in jail forever. Look what he did. He had a gun and he was an alcoholic. Or no, it was cocaine. Kind of like, Donald Trump Jr., the worm. Oh, quick. Lock up Hunter Biden. Bah! This plea agreement ends an investigation that was opened in 2018. During the administration of the filthy pig, the orange vomit, Donald Trump. And the investigation itself by the prosecutors and all the people involved generated some really intense interest and criticism since about 2020 from Christian fascist politicians who have accused the Biden administration of reluctance to pursue the case. Well, this is just like, it's just like the orange vomit case. President Biden, as far as I know, had nothing to do with this. In fact, President Biden made the ridiculous statements a couple of times. I say ridiculous, but I'm assuming it's based on President Biden not receiving all the information, that his son had never committed any crimes. Well, yes, he did. Now, the crimes that Hunter Biden is accused of committing and the ones that he's going to plea out have nothing to do with overthrowing the government of the United States or insurrection or people being murdered while they attacked the Capitol building. No, none of that. This has to do with Hunter Biden not filing his taxes for 2 years and having a gun, which he was not supposed to have because he had addiction issues. Now, the terms of this proposed deal, it was negotiated with a Delaware U.S. attorney who was appointed by Donald Trump, named David Weiss. The deal is probably going to face some pretty intense scrutiny from scum and Christian terrorists like, Kevin McCarthy. The papers that were filed in this case indicate that Hunter Biden has tentatively agreed to plead guilty to 2 misdemeanor tax charges of a failure to pay in 2017 and 2018. And the combined tax liability is $1.2 million. Hunter, what were you thinking? That's according to people familiar with the plea deal, who, I like this, spoke on condition of anonymity to describe details of the agreement that are not yet public. Right, okay. Now, The prosecutors in this case plan to recommend, it's reported, a sentence of probation for those counts. And that's the rumors out there floating around. And Biden's representatives have said a couple of times he previously paid back the IRS of what he owed. No, that makes no difference. Lock him up. Lock him up. Oh, my God, Hunter Biden. The whole family is corrupt and filthy and rotten. Now, according to the Washington Post, in a letter filed in federal court in Wilmington, Delaware today, the federal prosecutors said they were filing 2 documents called criminal information. Now, it's my understanding that those are typically used in cases in which a defendant has agreed to plead guilty. Not like the orange vomit. I didn't do anything. Those were my boxes. You leave my boxes alone. Now, lock up Hunter Biden. Lock him up. Lock him up. The prosecutors in filings to the court wrote this. The defendant has agreed to plead guilty to both counts of the tax information. End quote. Now, the second criminal information is about the gun charge. Dun, dun, dun. In that case, the letter from the prosecutor say this, quote, the defendant has agreed to enter a pretrial diversion agreement which, with respect to the firearm information, end quote. Now, pretrial diversion agreement is simply where you go and learn how not to carry a gun if you are an addict. Oh, Jesus Christ. Now, handling this gun charge as a so-called diversion case, that means that Hunter Biden will not technically be pleading guilty to that crime. And again, diversion programs are, it's an option that is typically offered to nonviolent offenders who have, quote, substance abuse problems. End quote. So, according to these documents that I do not have, but I'm reading a summation of some of this stuff, in total, the prosecutors will recommend 2 years of probation and these diversion conditions. And if Hunter Biden successfully meets the conditions of the diversion program, the gun charge would be removed from his record at the end of that period. Right? So Hunter has to get into a diversion program and learn how not to own a gun or handle a gun or carry a gun or have anything to do with a gun or say the word gun or spell the word gun if you have a substance abuse problem. Now, I don't know anything about the personal interior troubles of the Biden family. I know that they have dealt with the kind of tragedy that most families never deal with, especially Joe Biden. And when Beau Biden died of brain cancer, was it? Hunter Biden, I understand, I may be wrong here, I don't know, but I understand that's when Hunter Biden, who was very close to his brother Beau, began his substance abuse period that resulted in his addiction. And, of course, that can't be considered. Well, I guess it could be considered, but I doubt seriously if it will be considered as a mitigating circumstance for the addiction that led to this gun possession charge. We'll see. One of Hunter Biden's lawyers, Chris Clark, said in a written statement this, quote, Hunter will take responsibility for 2 instances of failure to file tax payments when due. A firearm charge, which will be subject to a pretrial diversion agreement and will not be the subject of the plea agreement, will also be filed by the government. I know Hunter believes it is important to take responsibility for these mistakes he made during a period of turmoil and addiction in his life. He looks forward to continuing his recovery and moving forward. End quote. And Chris Clark, the lawyer, said that with these agreements, the long-running criminal investigation of Hunter Biden, quote, is resolved, end quote. Not so fast, Chris Clark. You're dealing with Christian fascists. You're dealing with a House of Representatives and Leonard Leo, that Catholic prick who is trying to destroy the country. You're dealing with people who will never let this go. This will become a campaign issue. But notice how Hunter Biden, maybe he had no choice, but Hunter Biden has taken responsibility for the things he did wrong and tried to make restitution. Can you imagine this filthy pig, Donald Trump, doing anything even remotely similar to taking responsibility for the crimes he's committed and the poison he's injected into this country? No, you can't, because it would never happen. Now, the gun purchase that led to the criminal charge happened, according to this, in late 2018 at a time, and this is what he says in his autobiography. I mean, Hunter Biden wrote this shit out. But he got the gun when he was regularly abusing crack. And when he filed out paperwork to buy the gun, he denied using drugs or having a drug problem, which exposed him to a potential charge of making a false statement on the document, as well as illegal gun possession once he got the weapon. And now here's another circumstance that could or could not be mitigating, but it won't be. Biden owned the gun for less than 2 weeks because his then girlfriend threw it away. That's according to public accounts of that time period. 2 weeks. Well, lock him up! Put him in prison forever! Joe Biden needs to be defeated. God bless Donald Trump. He will save us! So his girlfriend threw the gun away. Now, this plea deal will become one of the central factors in the 2024 presidential race. Count on it. Because the Democrats and the Christian fascists once again will debate the influence of politics on law enforcement and the effects of law enforcement investigations on political campaigns. Why, of course. This has nothing to do with a political campaign. This has nothing to do, one could argue, which I am right now, nothing to do with Joe Biden. Hunter Biden fucked up. Yes, he really did. And it's my understanding that the plea deal he is making with the prosecutors is very similar to plea deals that are made by normal other people. Now, when I say normal, I mean people who are not politically connected to the President of the United States or connected by blood. But pause for a moment, and I'm not trying to divert attention away from Hunter Biden's crimes or his plea deal, but pause for a moment and think about this filthy, rotten, grifting family of Donald Trump, including Donald Trump. This is a fucking family of thieves, liars, grifters, con artists. They like to hang out with murderers. They like to hang out with insane people. But we got to lock up Hunter Biden because, he had a gun for 2 weeks. A spokesperson for the White House, that means a spokesperson for the Bidens, declined to comment Tuesday, other than to say that Joe Biden and the First Lady, quote, love their son and support him as he continues to rebuild his life, end quote. Well, he can't rebuild his life. He's a rotten criminal. Look what he did. Lock him up, I say. Could you be quiet, please? No, I have to make this point. Please be quiet. I'm doing a podcast. Hi, Truth Seekers. Mike Malloy here. You know, the Progressive Voices Network brings you commercial-free commentary from today's leading progressive radio hosts and pundits, like me, Mike Malloy, 24 hours a day. I'm not your typical old guy from the 80s or the 90s talk radio host, and Progressive Voices is not your typical talk radio network. It's a listener-supported nonprofit with no corporate control whatsoever over our broadcast. So hosts like me, Mike Malloy, are free to rant and scream and carry on about whatever we like. We're often controversial, but we're never boring. Weeknights, 9 p.m. in the East, 6 p.m. in the West on the Progressive Voices Network. Always progressive, always on. I'm Mike Malloy. Keep it lit.